Before we start, I need you to focus for a moment. Just you and me. What you're about to hear isn't some random collection of high school stories. These were real lockdowns, real moments where someone like you was sitting in a dark classroom, trying not to breathe too loud, hoping the footsteps in the hallway wouldn't stop at their door. And I want you to imagine that for a second. The lights off, the room silent, every tiny sound suddenly feeling dangerous. So do this for me. Put your headphones on, stay close, and don't let your mind wander too far. Because once these stories begin, you're not going to stop thinking about them. Ready? Let's begin. All right, let me take you back to the night everything changed for me. And as I tell you this, I want you to picture it like you're the one standing where I stood. Because if you can imagine that, you'll understand why I still can't walk through a school hallway without feeling my chest tighten. It happened during my junior year, in room 214, last class of the day, just before the final bell, and the sun had already dipped behind the gym, so the hallway outside looked darker than usual. Almost like the lights weren't doing anything at all. The whole place felt too quiet, too heavy, like the air itself was waiting for something. Like your body knows something is wrong before your mind catches up. Then the announcement came over the PA system. No chime, no tone, just the principal's voice sounding flat and hollow as he said, "This is a lockdown, not a drill." That was it. Nothing more. And the silence that followed felt wrong, like someone had pressed their hand over the entire building to smother the sound. Our teacher moved fast, turning off the lights, locking the door, dragging a table in front of it, and whispering for us to get down. Everyone moved except one girl, Lena, who froze with her phone glowing in her hand, and I grabbed her wrist and pulled her down with me behind the cabinets. She was shaking so hard I thought the noise alone would give us away. Then the footsteps started, slow, heavy, not the hurried steps of a teacher or a scared student. These footsteps sounded deliberate, like whoever it was wanted us to know they were there. They stopped right outside our door, and the door didn't rattle, the handle didn't turn, nothing moved. But someone whispered from the other side. It wasn't loud or aggressive, it was quiet and soft. The kind of whisper you'd miss if you weren't close to the floor like we were. It said, "I know you're in there." Lena's nails dug into my arm, and every nerve in my back felt like it was crawling toward the door, even though I wasn't moving at all. The whisper came again, this time asking, "Why are the lights off?" And it didn't sound angry or threatening. It sounded confused, almost curious, and that terrified me even more. Our teacher pressed her finger to her lips, but her eyes were full of fear, staring at the bottom of the door like she was waiting for something to appear there. And something did. A piece of paper. Not a hand, not a weapon, just a perfectly clean sheet sliding slowly under the door, stopping just far enough for us to see it. No writing, no folds, nothing. Like someone wanted us to pick it up. None of us moved. Even breathing felt dangerous. The footsteps began again, slow and dragging, like whoever it was didn't know where they were supposed to go. We waited for minutes that felt like hours, until the PA system clicked again, glitching, and a voice that wasn't the principal rasped through the speaker like a recording played backwards saying, "Lockdown remains." The air froze in the room for 10 full seconds until static cleared, and the real principal came back on, his voice shaking as he said police were clearing the building. 20 minutes later we heard the knock pattern we had been trained for, but even then our teacher made the officers slide their badges under the door before she moved the table. When we finally stepped into the hallway, it was empty. Too empty, like no one had walked there at all. Except for the paper. The same blank sheet lay on the floor. A cop picked it up with gloves and checked both sides. It was pristine. No fingerprints, no marks. No explanation. The part the school never talked about was that all the security cameras in our hallway glitched at the exact moment the whisper happened. Every angle, every feed, 20 seconds of static, like someone wiped the system clean. A week later, Lena transferred schools, and me, I still think about that whisper. Not because of what it said, but because of how calm and curious it sounded, like something that shouldn't have been there was trying to understand us. And even now, sometimes when I walk past a closed door, I swear I hear that same soft whisper echo in the back of my mind. I know you're in there. Let me tell you something I've never said out loud before, and as I talk, I want you to picture every detail, because it's the only way you'll understand why this memory still hits me like a punch in the chest. It happened during my sophomore year, on a Thursday, right after 7th period. I remember because the weather was strange that day. Grey, humid, like the school itself was sweating. I stayed late to finish a project in the history wing. The building was almost empty, just the janitor and a few teachers still packing up. And then the announcement came on. No warning, no alarm, just the principal's voice, trembling in a way I'd never heard before. Lockdown, effective immediately. A second later, all the hallway lights shut off at once, like somebody had flipped a master switch. You ever seen a school go dark instantly? It doesn't feel normal. It feels like the building is holding its breath. I knew the nearest safe room was classroom 2B, so I ran, quietly but fast. My footsteps felt way too loud on the tiles, like I was announcing myself to whoever was out there. When I reached the door, I turned the handle. Locked. The teacher must have sealed it already. I knocked the coded pattern, 2 knocks, pause, 1 knock. That's protocol. But no one opened. No sound came from inside, just silence thick enough that it felt alive. I didn't have time to waste. I started checking doors, one by one, until I found room 2F slightly open. I slipped inside, shut it gently, and leaned against the wall, trying to calm my breathing. And that's when I realized I wasn't alone in there. A girl was crouched behind the teacher's desk, hugging her knees. I recognized her from chemistry, quiet, barely talked. Her name was Ria. She looked at me like she wasn't sure I was real, like she had convinced herself she was the last person left in the building. I whispered her name. Her eyes went wide. She lifted a finger and pressed it against her lips so slowly that I felt my heartbeat shift. Something was wrong. She pointed toward the classroom door. I listened, and at first I heard nothing. But then, very faintly, like someone dragging fabric across the floor, footsteps, slow, uneven. Whoever was in the hallway wasn't walking normally. It was more like they were feeling their way forward. Slide, step, getting closer. I motioned for Ria to move further back, but she didn't. She stayed frozen, completely still, except for one thing. Her breathing. It wasn't panicked, it was controlled, like she was trying to match the rhythm of the silence itself. And then the handle of our classroom door began to turn. Not fast, not aggressively. Just this gentle, deliberate twist. Someone testing it. Someone patient. Someone who wanted to know if they were alone on the other side. I held my breath. Ria stopped breathing entirely. The handle turned all the way down and stayed there. The door didn't open. Whoever was there didn't push. They were listening. I swear to you, I felt the weight of their ear against the door. And then a whisper came through the crack under the frame. A whisper so soft I almost convinced myself I imagined it. "There's someone in the wrong room." My stomach dropped. I looked at Ria. She shook her head violently, like she already knew what the whisper meant. The footsteps moved away. Not fast, not slow, just drifting. After a few seconds, the PA system crackled, but this time it wasn't the principal. It was the same voice that whispered, "Lockdown in progress. Stay where you are." It didn't even try to sound official. It didn't need to. It just needed us quiet. Ria grabbed my sleeve. Her hand was ice cold. She leaned close to my ear and whispered, "It's not the real lockdown." I didn't understand what she meant. Not then, but her fear wasn't normal. It was the fear of someone who had recognized something. Someone who had heard that voice before. We waited 10 minutes, then 15, and then the real principal came on the intercom. His voice was panicked. "If you are not in a secure classroom, find one immediately. This is not a drill." That was all we needed. I grabbed Ria's wrist and we crawled to the back corner, behind a file cabinet. The lights flickered once, twice, then footsteps again, this time much faster, stopping for just a second outside our door before continuing down the hall. When the police finally arrived, they evacuated us classroom by classroom. When they got to 2F, they found the lock scratched. Deep gouges, as if someone had tried to open it with a key they didn't quite know how to use. Ria transferred schools the next week. She never explained why. But before she left, she said one thing to me that still keeps me awake sometimes. When the lights went out, he wasn't somewhere else. He was already inside. I don't know who she meant. I don't know if she knew. But ever since that night, every time a classroom door doesn't close right, or the hallway gets too quiet, or I hear someone breathing behind me, I remember her voice. And I remember being in the wrong room, and how something out there knew exactly where we were. I need you to picture this one slowly, because it still plays in my mind like a movie I can't turn off. And I'm telling you directly, just you, because you need to feel how close this actually got. It happened during my senior year, a regular day. Nothing strange, nothing unusual, until the final bell. That's when the school called a sudden shelter in place. Not a full lockdown, just remain in classrooms. Everyone brushed it off. Teachers grumbled. Students laughed. You know how it is. Nobody takes the first announcement seriously. But then the second announcement came. Same voice, same tone. Except this time it added one thing. Do not open your classroom door for any reason. That's when the joking stopped. My class was in the science wing, a long hallway with glass windows on the upper half of every door. Too easy to see through, too easy to be seen. Our teacher locked the door, shut the blinds, and told us to sit against the back wall. And at first it felt routine, boring even, until someone knocked. 3 times, soft, slow, precise. And the reason I remember it so clearly is because it wasn't a panicked knock. It wasn't someone desperate to get in. It was gentle, like the person knocking already knew we were there, and wasn't in a hurry. The teacher froze. Everyone froze. A few people whispered, probably a kid trying to get in. But then the knocking came again. Same rhythm, same patience. I know it doesn't sound terrifying when I say it out loud, but when you're sitting in a silent classroom, with the blinds down and the lights off, every small sound becomes sharp enough to cut through you. Our teacher finally whispered, "Who is it?" And the voice that answered wasn't scared. It wasn't crying. It wasn't asking for help. It was just cheerful, calm. "It's me. Let me in." That was it. And the reason that sentence turned my stomach was because nobody in our class recognized the voice. It didn't match anyone we knew. Not a student, not a teacher, not a staff member. And the tone. You know when someone is trying too hard to sound normal, like they're practicing how to fit in? That's what it felt like. The knocking came again, 3 times. A little louder, not angry, just insistent. One girl near the door whispered that she could see a shadow under the frame. Shoes. But they weren't standing still. They were facing the wrong direction, angled sideways. Like the person outside wasn't looking at the door, like they were facing the wall. I could hear the breathing too once I paid attention. Not fast, not slow, just steady and too close to the door. The PA system suddenly clicked on and the principal's voice sounded strained. "All teachers, do not open your doors. Police are sweeping the building." As soon as he said police, the shadow under the door shifted and then disappeared. No footsteps, no sound, just gone. Our teacher told us to stay where we were. Minutes felt like hours. Eventually, we heard real officers knocking the correct pattern, announcing themselves, clearing rooms one by one. When they opened ours, the hallway was empty except for a backpack lying right in front of our door. No books inside, no ID, just an empty backpack with the zipper halfway open, like someone had rifled through it in a hurry. The police asked if anyone had left the room earlier. We said no. They asked if someone had tried to get in. Our teacher nodded. They exchanged looks, serious looks, not the kids are overreacting kind. The kind that meant something wasn't right. They reviewed the hallway cameras, every angle, Every feed, nothing, no one at our door. No one walking that hallway, no one carrying a backpack. No one matching the shadow we saw. The camera pointed directly at our classroom, static. Only during the exact 3 minutes when the knocking happened, they tried to explain it. Technical error, glitch, system failure. But I could tell they didn't believe it. Before we left, I asked one of the officers quietly, "Did you hear the knocking too?" He looked at me for a long moment before saying, "A lot of classrooms reported the same pattern today. 3 knocks." He didn't explain. He didn't need to. And you know what stayed with me? The voice, calm, friendly, like it knew exactly how to sound to make you open the door. And sometimes, late at night, if I'm walking past a closed room and the lights flicker or the hallway goes too quiet for too long, I swear I can hear it again, soft, close, 3 knocks, and that same voice whispering like it never left the school. "It's me. Let me in."